Well, good Monday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Let's get open for business here, and let's wake up the football gods here on this Memorial Day. And thank you, all of you veterans out there and all of you out there who have made ultimate sacrifice. I know you're not hearing me, but thank you for what you've done for our country. And remember, all of you today. This week, we are week 2 of the OTAs, where the Cowboys are back on the field, beginning to do the installs, meshing the rookies with the veterans, trying to get a take on who's going to be staying and who's going to be going, and starting to shape the team that will be the Dallas Cowboys. Stephen Jones, a.k.a. Catboy, has always said that player acquisition is a 365-day-a-year job, and that the Cowboys are always looking to get better. Jerry Jones has said, if it's about writing a check to win the Super Bowl, just let me know how big a check that's going to be. As we sit here today, end of May, the Dallas Cowboys currently have $13,347,764. Come June 1st, they will get an additional $10 million. Where that sits at the moment, there are 9 teams. Currently, the Cowboys sent 10th in cap. Additional $10 million will definitely take them up. Now, I'm not sure if the Packers, Chargers, Dolphins, Bears, I didn't dig that deep. If they don't have, where they're getting cash, that'll put the Cowboys somewhere around third as far as cap room left. Now, maybe if you are trying to look at the glass half full, you could look at it and say the Cowboys got rid of or stayed out of the big name, big money sweepstakes, where a lot of times you see people invest a lot of money on players to get them, and it's a name player. It creates excitement, but then it ends up being a player that may not work. You can, the Giants right now may be looking back at the Kenny Galladay signing that they did last year, where they put a boatload of money. You could look at them and say Kyle Rudolph signing that they did, that these were named players that people instantly said, oh, they're going to be a much better team. They're in great shape. You can't stop them. But in the end, they spent a boatload of money and they didn't pan out. On the flip side, you could look at it and say, Curse, Malik Hooker, Carlos Watkins, all free agents that were, $1 million or so a piece, and they've all made it onto the roster the next year. And you look at him and say, well, Jaron Curse, that brother was a diamond in the rough, and all of a sudden changes the narrative and turns the page of the Dallas Cowboys needing a safety. You look at Malik Hooker that they signed on the cheap as well, that he's a year removed now from his injury and started to play better as the season goes on. Those are two starters that you say, okay, our safety situation is better. You got a rookie undrafted free agent in Marquez Bell, who may push them a little bit. But you look at it and say, that was a good free agent pickup. And even Carlos Watkins, who may be on the bubble, played significant time for you last year and did really well, and probably will make this team, probably kicking out your second-round draft pick. So in some regards, as much crap as we give the Cowboys about free agency, I actually say that we've probably done better than some teams. Not all of them. We know Tampa Bay won a Super Bowl with their free agents. We know that the Rams won a Super Bowl with all the free agents that they had. But keep in mind, both of those teams had legitimate teams and players in place. They didn't start from scratch saying, let's just build a team of all-stars. They had a good base to start with. So enter the Cowboys now, maybe with the third most cap room in the NFL. Maybe. will the Dallas Cowboys, now that the big money is gone, the players, what they do as far as evaluating the talent in the draft? You can say a lot of negative things about the Cowboys, and most people do, but you've got to look at it from the standpoint of saying the Dallas Cowboys evaluating talent and finding diamonds in the rough, the Jaron Curses, the Malik Hookers, the Carlos Watkins, the Marquez Bells, the Terrence Steeles. If they could put that forth into this free agent section that we have right now with the $23 million, now all of a sudden you can actually bring in quite a few players. And as teams now start going to training camp, coming up in the next few weeks and things and stuff, they're going to start being that next wave of free agency where there are true veterans that you can sign on the relative cheap that have tread life. But if you were the GM of the Dallas Cowboys, if you were the owner, and you're sitting here with this team, and I'm not one that's going to say that the Cowboys have gone backwards, like they say. They make it sound like the Dallas Cowboys need to tear the whole thing up and start all over. From the way I looked at it, and as I discussed yesterday in our live stream, I believe we have the best quarterback in my division. I believe we have the best running backfield between our two, Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. I'm not ready to say Zeke Elliott's done in our division. I'll say I think we have the best receiver in CeeDee Lamb. I'll give the Eagles the offensive line, but I think the changes that we're making on the offensive line, depending on Tyron Smith's health, puts us about the second best offensive line in the division. And I will put this young, athletic defensive front, a 7, against anybody. I think that this team is going to be fast and physical. I think they're going to be making some noise. And I'll even put in our secondary is the best secondary in our division. Now, you can call me a homer, but to me that doesn't sound like a team that needs to be completely rebuilt. In fact, I think that this is a team that you look at and say, if you got a couple more pieces, and this is where we were last year, where Catboy decided not to do anything. If you were the GM, what would be the one move or more that you would make to get us over the hump and to say, I think we got out at this thing? For me, and shout out to Green because he's the one who got the ball rolling on this yesterday, it's this move right here. It might actually be worth the trade.
Would you like to see Debo go?
Well, it's the Dallas Cowboys for me. I mean, they've already gone all in on trying to win a championship, and Jerry Jones ain't buying green bananas. So it seems like it would make sense for them to flip the 24th pick and bring in one of the best playmakers the NFL has. People got to remember, the Dallas Cowboys moved on from Amari Cooper this offseason. Cedric Wilson left in free agency. Zeke Elliott's best days are behind him. Tony Pollard is unrestricted after 2022. I mean, they're losing a lot of juice in their skill position core, and so adding a guy like Debo makes a lot of sense. Last year, the Dallas Cowboys, in terms of broken tackles in their run game, there were only 5 teams that had fewer broken tackles in their run game. So I get that they have the #1 offense, but it's not without warts, and they couldn't run the football when it matters. That's why they lost 5 or 6 games when they didn't rush for a buck. So it just seems like you would try to make up that lack of playmaking in the run game. You'd offset that with a guy like Debo Samuel, who is a yak monster. 10-yard catch season. Samuels, Dallas Cowboys, make it happen.
Yeah, they got to clean up that offensive line, though. I mean, they really do. I mean, you got to give the line some of the blame for that.
But if the line is not good, Hannah, here's the thing. I can throw it out to Debo on a smoke or a slant and let him do the heavy lifting.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of Debo Samuel.
He could. How realistic is this?
Here's the problem. You can only pay so many stars, right? They got rid of Amari Cooper because they didn't want to $20 million because they got to pay Zeke $20 million a year. You got Dak, you got all these other problems that they got to deal with. You got the O-line, and they're all in on Dan Quinn and his defense. They believe that's a big reason why they jumped last year. So they're going to put more resources into that through the draft. Get a pass rusher, get guys like that. I love the fit. So I think they'll at least
they had $70 million to give Randy Gregory, and he left to go to the Denver Broncos. They can find money just like the Rams and Les Snead found the money. We keep thinking that the Rams have any more salary cap space, and they keep finding money to give the guys.
They can put the money in the Willy
Samuels
Wonka
has
machine.
the dominant traits that everybody in the NFL is looking for. It makes a lot of sense.
It's just that how do we get here, right? Because you look at the end of the last season, I called a couple of their games. I mean, they were all in. It was all about Debo, right? They go on the road. I mean, I can't imagine them sending him to like Green Bay. You mentioned Green Bay, a rival. I mean, that just seems.
I don't either, but it's all about the draft pick capital. If they're going to get a massive offer from the Packers, they might just think about it. These GMs are different now. They don't care as much about the conference stuff.
You don't think so?
A little bit.
Lynch and Shanahan doing that. Do you think he should want out of San Francisco? I mean, they came very close to going to the Super Bowl last year.
I understand where Debo is coming from. It's about longevity, and everybody's focused on the second contract. But every player in the National Football League knows it's not about just getting paid that one big contract. It's about getting paid multiple times. You want seconds, you want thirds, you want fourths too, if it's possible. And it's not outside of the realm of possibility for Debo Samuel to get another contract in his early 30s, like we saw with Julio Jones, like we saw with Antonio Brown when he went with the Raiders.
Yeah.
This is what Debo Samuel is thinking about. And when you look at how they used him and his average yards, catch, the yards after catch, like that's more in line of what we see from running backs. Like he was the only receiver in the top 10 in yards after catch.
There you go. So the question would be is, and I don't think that Catboy would end up entertaining that, because you're talking about number 1 pick, at least a number 3, maybe a number 4, maybe a first and a second. You're talking about a lot of draft capital. But on the flip side, if he is what you think he is, if he is a guy who makes you a Super Bowl contender, maybe you end up looking at that and saying, yeah, maybe this is something we need to visit. Now, would the 49ers trade him to the Cowboys? I mean, this would be like the Charles Haley all over again, a power shift to the Cowboys, somebody who has always been a hated rival. I doubt that they would do that, but then again, money talks and BS walks. So we'll see where this all goes, and it may just be a fantasy because, of course, trying to get a guy like Debo Samuels, who is literally he's a super freak. And to think that the Cowboys would make a move like that, more than likely, I don't think so. But then again, the Cowboys have saved and pinched every single penny. That $23.347 million. Now, I know they're going to need some of that money to help pay for Diggs and for CeeDee Lamb and things like that, but there's a whole lot of new money that's coming. A whole lot of new money that will be coming in. Next year will be the direct TV money, more of the gambling money, all of these television contracts. Salary cap will probably jump up about $40 million next year. It would actually behoove like Debo Samuels, get him now and get that contract done now. Because in the same way the Cowboys franchise tag Dalton Schultz at 10.6, we see David Njoku get a $14.5 million contract for a guy that has almost half of the yards. The price is going up on everything and everybody. Let's be clear here. So the way you get past that is you buy now before the inflation goes up. And when the salary cap goes up $40, $50 million, there are going to be teams out there that are going to be desperate to get talent, and they will pay more and above what the normal acting marketplace. And that's why you get ahead of that now. So there we go, guys. That's what we got. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Tonight I have to get my daughter from the airport, so our live stream will probably be starting at about 9:30 instead of 9 o'clock. We will be delayed. Hope you guys tune in after that when I do get back. Other than that, I need to go get my back looked at because I've had some really bad back pains, and I need to have that thing together because we're headed to Dallas in less than 2 weeks. And with that being said, you know how we roll.
Our coach here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching. commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Sports Report.
You did one hell of a job, and the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?